Well, welcome. I'm just kidding. Hi. So today I wanted to talk a little bit on some of the basics of engaging in heaven and what that is about. And so I'm going to share some of my own experiences and also talk a little bit about intimacy with God. Because these are foundational things to engaging in heaven. One of the things that you will learn is that the more intimacy you have with God through Jesus or the Father, with the Holy Spirit, of course, the more intimacy you have, the more access you're able to have in the heavenly places. Okay, so basically, the more intimacy you have, it sets you up for more authority, more responsibility, all of that sort of thing. But if you have struggled with intimacy in your walk with God, then that is what you're going to be doing in the heavenly places, is working on intimacy. Okay, so that always is the foundation of everything. So you may only be able to go a few places in the heavenly realms at first, and that is okay, because that's like the sweetest part anyway, is intimacy with God. And so you'll get to spend the majority of your time working on intimacy. And so I wanted to share just several different places that you can go in the heavenly realms, that especially good starting places, but then I'll share some other things that God has done through me. And I want to preface this with, I have not been everywhere. It would probably be impossible to go everywhere in the heavenly places in this walk of our time on earth. I don't know that for sure, but I would venture to guess that we will never get to everything, that it will take an eternity, because God is just that big, and he keeps creating, and we keep creating. And so because of that, there's more and more and more to experience. So the very most foundational thing that I think you could do is, when you're first engaging in heaven, I think it's really important to just go through Jesus. Every time when we step through the veil, the veil was torn so we could step through into the Holy of Holies, right? Well, when we step through, if we can go with Jesus, he's the only way, the only one who can bring us to the Father, right? And so the first thing I do with people who are entering into relationship with God is, the first thing I do is I just introduce them to Jesus, like face to face. You know what I mean? And when I do this, I like through evangelism, you know what I mean? When they're first, okay, I want to trust God with my life. I want to be a follower. I want to give everything I have to him. Then I introduce them to Jesus, and then I have Jesus take us into the mobile courts, the court of accusations. And the reason I do that is because then you can get rid of all your junk. And so you can just repent before the Father, and you can start laying all that stuff down and accepting that we're standing under Jesus' sacrifice for the first time, and being able to be covered in that. And that is a great thing to do at the beginning. And then after that, I usually just take them to their mountain. And so everyone has a mountain, a place of authority. And basically in the heavenly realms, and the kingdom of God is one of the realms, and there are all these mountains there where we each are seated, and we may not be seated yet, but we have a throne. Even I've seen with one of my girls, she saw her throne being built for the first time, which was kind of cool. The angels were building her throne, and then she got to sit in it. But anyway, you can look at your throne. You can see your throne where you're seated with Jesus. Sometimes you're seated with him. Sometimes you're seated beside him. Okay, you can kind of just experience it for yourself. But anyway, you can see your throne. The first time I saw my throne, I got to see my name on my throne, my real heavenly name. And for me, I saw it and it was in Hebrew. Thankfully, I studied Hebrew so I could read it. But I don't know if everyone's is in Hebrew or all different languages. I have no idea. But for me, that's what it was. And so I got to see my real name and see that it was my throne. And then when I said, I want to sit in my throne, all of a sudden I saw myself seated there already. And I was a little confused by it. Later on, Jesus showed me that I'd actually been seated there for many years. I just didn't know it. And so in the spirit, I'd had lots of intimacy with God. I just hadn't knowingly engaged in the heavenly realms. But our spirit is there already if we're followers of Jesus. And so anyway, I got to see that that was the case. And then, so I was a little confused at first because I'm thinking, this is my first time, you know. But actually it wasn't. It was just my first time with my soul. So we know we have a spirit, soul, and body. Our spirit is what was made before the foundations of the earth. And our soul is our mind, will, and emotions. And then our body, you know, everybody knows what a body is. And so anyway, with our soul, sometimes we aren't knowing what we're doing. And with our spirit, our spirit does its own thing half the time. And so the coolest thing is when they come together and they are able to work together. And so that's when we can experience these things. So anyway, your mountain is a place of authority. So you have a place where you're seated and you can look over your life. And so you'll have different mountains of authority. You know, everybody has different mountains. They're not all the same. For me, I have, you know, a family mountain. I have a homeschool mountain because I homeschool. I have a finance mountain. I have several different mountains. And this is where I look over and see what's going on. And I'm able to see, is the enemy coming into my life? Okay, I need to cut that off. Or I can go and release anything that God has given me. So he's given all of us promises. He's also given us, heavenly gifts, right? And so I can go there and release peace over my mountain. I can release reconciliation over my mountain, or I can release finances over my mountain. I can release favor over my mountain. This is a good place to start. Hi there. Anyway, as we are going along, then he'll bring us to other places. Another place that almost everybody can go is, or maybe everybody I know has been able to go there, is to the river of life. And this is also where the tree of life is right beside it. And so you can go there and you can rest there either in the water or by the water with Jesus and just spend some time with him. And you can eat of the fruit of the tree of life. And you can also, he can reveal things to you there. You can spend time getting to know him, or you can just rest because you need some rest. You can receive healing there. There are lots of things that you can do there. Also, a lot of people have a garden that they're drawn to in the heavenly places. So they can go to this garden and spend time with him. I have this, this different place that it's in the same realm as the tree of life and the river of life, but it's a little bit in a different place, and it's where this beautiful garden with lots of flowers are, and he will lead me through and teach me things there. And so for me, the majority of it is just this intimacy and teaching time that I receive from Jesus in that place. So that's kind of, I would say, the basics. There are many other courts besides the court of accusations. There are lots of higher courts that you can go to for many different reasons, but I would only go if you're led. The main courts that everybody goes to is the Court of Angels and the mobile court, Court of Accusations. These are places almost everybody goes. So I don't know if you know, but you have an angel, at least one, maybe thousands, but you have them who are assigned to you. And so on your mountain, you can go there and say, I want to meet my angel. Maybe you'll see him, maybe you'll feel him. The other thing is about when we engage in heaven, a lot of times I will use the word seeing, but it's not always a literal seeing with your eye. It's like experiencing. So I might be feeling something, sensing something, knowing something, might be seeing with my, kind of like my imagination, you know, your mind's eye. I might be hearing something, but it's all wrapped up into one word. When I say seeing, I don't always mean I'm seeing. A lot of people are expecting this movie theater experience, and most people don't get that, okay? So most people, when you close your eyes, you have a black screen. This is what happens to everybody. It's not that you're not seeing, it's just that you may not be seeing with your mind's eye. And so you need to be thinking about, just like if you're thinking about, well, what was that like back in this memory that I had? And you kind of start visualizing this memory that you had. It's the same sort of seeing as that. And so anyway, these are ways that we experience God. But when we see things there, it is different than it is here. And so we might experience things that are so strange that it throws us off guard a little bit, because our soul is experiencing things that we don't understand, because all we understand is here. We've been trained our whole life to raise up our soul here in our mind to understand everything that the earth is like. But our home is in heaven. And so when Ephesians 2 says we're seated in the heavenly places, that's real. Our spirit is literally there all the time. And so when we engage there with our mind and we start experiencing things, it's like it's brand new to us. We may not understand why we know things or why we experience things, but it's new and it's different. And so I would just let yourself go according to Jesus. You know, go wherever he tells you, do whatever he tells you to do, and just be open to receiving whatever that is. As long as you are trusting that you're not just making it up, which is hard at first because you question, okay, that's weird, I must have just made that up. This is what I used to do. I used to go, okay, that's a little crazy. That my imagination was going wild. I thought that at first, and then I would hear other people having the same experiences, and I'm like, this is real. And so it's unreal to us here, you know? I've had so many strange experiences, but one of the things that is interesting is, well, for years, I've been able to see the spirit realm here on earth, you know what I mean? There's a spirit realm that's here, and so you can see lots of, demons, angels, things like this in the spirit realm here. Some people can see it, some people can't. I just always have been able to, just like my sister. And so, this is my sister, by the way. But this is a lot different than it is there. So the funny thing is like, I'll see demons here that just look awful and scary and all of that. When we're in the heavenly places, like in the kingdom of God over our mountain, and we see demons, they're like little sissies. I mean, nothing to be scared of. We're just like, stomping you out. You know, it's just really easy to deal with them because they are not as bad as they are here. The other thing is, angels look different here than they do there. So you might come across the same angel, be able to interact with the same angel, and it looks completely different here than it does in the heavenly places. Right, Kim?
Yes.
Yes. So anyway, they can make themselves look huge here, and you're like, whoa, this is amazing. And then you go there, and they're just like a normal guy, and you're like, oh, well, hello. And so anyway, it's very different. It's kind of confusing sometimes because then you're like, wait, did I really experience that same thing then? But you learn that you do. And so a lot of times you'll be given stuff in heaven and you'll be told to eat it. And you're like, I'm supposed to eat a scroll? How? Okay, that doesn't make sense to me. But it's because there, when you eat something, it becomes part of you. And that, okay? We're just not used to eating paper, okay? That's not something that we do. We don't eat, a jewel. We don't eat jewels, okay? That's not something that we do here. So at first it's like, wait, this is weird. But what happens is it becomes part of us. And so when that happens, then here it starts manifesting as part of who we are, which is really kind of cool because we can know things here that we have no idea how we learned it. And it's just because we experienced it there. Hi, have a seat here, welcome. So anyway, things are just very different in the heavenly places than they are here. But it's beautiful, it's wonderful, it's just something to get used to. And the culture is different. The culture is so super reverent to the Father. Everybody is constantly, their attention goes to the Father all the time. And this is something that you don't have to worry about intentions of people. In the heavenly places, everybody's intentions are pure and to glorify God. That's what everybody's intentions are. And so that's beautiful. It's something that's different than we're used to here. Because here we're used to questioning everyone's motives. We're all the time going, okay, should I trust that? I don't know. And we don't have to even worry about that. It's amazing. It's a beautiful experience. But anyway, so I'm talking today about just different places in the heavenly realms and what it's like to experience these things and how intimacy is the foundation of everything that we do. Intimacy with the Father, intimacy with Jesus. And so if we continue to press into him, we will be, more and more will be revealed to us. And so some people, have you ever had a time where you felt like you were dancing with Jesus? Yes, raise your hand if you have. Okay, a few people have. Okay, well, I had experienced this in my walk before I was engaging in the heavenly places. I had experienced this a lot of times in worship, that I just felt like I was dancing with him, and it was a very intimate time. And I would even visualize there was this dance floor, kind of like at a wedding or something like that, And anyway, so I'd experienced that, and I just thought I was kind of making it up. That's what I thought. I thought, I love Jesus, so I'm imagining this, and it's wonderful. And then I found out that this is a real place in the heavenly realms. And I'm like, this is a thing. This is what I was actually there. And so a lot of times we're engaging the heavenly places because, like I said, Ephesians 2 says we're already seated in the heavenly places. So if our spirit is seated there, then we're doing lots of things in the heavenly realms that we're unaware of in our mind, will, and emotions here. And so when I was having this experience, I realized it was real. There's the throne room where the Father's seat is seated. A lot of times when we're doing traditional kind of praying, like, God, will you please do this? We are in the throne room in heaven, but we don't always realize that's what we're doing. Some people know it because they kind of have that theological background that they know that the throne room is real. But for me, I would just imagine that I was at the feet of the Father, that Jesus was with me. And that's what I would imagine sometimes when I was praying, not realizing that I was actually there. And this is the funny thing, when you start experiencing things in the heavenly realms and you let him open your eyes to that, then you start realizing, I've been here. This is what I've been doing. I didn't know you just don't have a real understanding that this is what you've been doing all your walk. And so anyway, it's pretty exciting when you start going, oh my goodness, this isn't new actually. This is just how it is. And so in the throne room, this is a place where, there are angels, there are saints all around, lots of people in the throne room, but the focus is completely on the Father. And he is bigger than you would expect. And it's not something where, it's just all reverence to the Father in the throne room. And when you go before the Father, this is where, if you want to know, why did God put me on this earth? I don't know why he put me on this earth, but I know he probably had a reason this is where you can go to get your destiny scroll. And so he wrote out what your life was supposed to be like before you ever came to the earth. You know, the Bible says that we were created before the foundations of the earth. He took our spirit and said, here, this is what I want for this person. And so he wrote our destiny scroll out for us. But that doesn't always mean that that's what happens. Okay, this is what is supposed to happen in our life, is our destiny scroll. And so we can go and see, what is it that he made me for? And so, anyway, the first experience I had in the throne room, knowingly anyway, I said, I want to step into responsibility. I want to be who you want me to be. And so can you just show me what is on my destiny scroll? Well, he only showed me one word. And I'm like, well, thanks for that. But I was, believe it or not, it was bigger than I thought. And it was something that, okay, it said intercessor. Well, my whole life people call me intercessor, and I'm like, well, I don't know, whatever. But this was different. I just knew it meant something different than what I'd always thought it meant. I thought intercessor was just someone who prayed and, prayed for other people a lot, okay? That's what I always thought intercessor was. But when he showed me this, I knew what it was, is I was supposed to lead other people into the heavenly places. And immediately, I just said, but God, I'm not worthy of that. And he rose up with more authority I've ever seen him have. And he just said, you don't tell me if you're worthy. I tell you if you're worthy. And he showed me I was on the arm of Jesus. And I was just like, oh, I'm sorry. Yes, you're right. It was like the most humbling moment of my life, I think. But it also stuck with me. I never, ever say I'm unworthy now. I'm like, nope. He says I'm worthy. It's not up to me. And so anyway, when we have these kind of experiences with God, it changes you. It changes everything. Something that should, probably took me my whole life saying I'm unworthy, I'm unworthy, I'm unworthy. All of a sudden, it's done. It's over. That's it. And this is how it is when we're face to face with the Father, because he just changes you. I mean, he makes everything different. He can take an addiction and it's just like done, over, no more. And it's strange to even think, when we go our whole lives striving in our own power, trying to overcome things, and he can just change it in a moment, it's over, and you'll never go back. And not only will you never go back, you'll never want anything but him. It'll be everything. And so this is, for me, every single experience I've had in the heavenly realms. And I have them throughout the day, every day. This is like I can't get enough. So I know if that's my home, I want to be in my home. And I'm happy to be an ambassador here, but I'd rather be in my home. And so I want to be there all the time. And this is somewhere that once you get a taste for where we were meant to be and who you're supposed to be, you don't want to be anywhere else. And all of these things in the world don't mean anything anymore. It's like, okay, well, I don't care. You can just have it. It's like, oh, you want my house? All right. It's fine. I have a better house than heaven anyway. And so it's just amazing what God does with us. But everything always has to do with being with him. And so if you try to go off and do all sorts of things in the heavenly places, and you get to where you're not with him, then you're still striving. And you're still in your mind doing more than you should do, because you always have to have this foundation of intimacy in everything we do. The more we grow in him, the more responsibility he gives us. And when we have more responsibility and more authority, it's only because we have been walking in his ways and he trusts us with that. And so we can't know if we're walking in his ways if we don't walk with him, right? And so he trusts us when we do this. He trusts us to take us new and different places. I mean, I could name 1,000 weird and crazy, wonderful places that I've been in the heavenly realms. But the most important thing is that you go and you just say, take me where you want to take me. What do you want from me? Because what you're supposed to do is not the same as me. And what you're supposed to do is not the same as her. And so every place that you'll experience will be unique to your experience. And so if you wait to have your heavenly experiences just when you come to this group, then you're missing it. You're missing out on everything he has for you. Because I'll lead you where he leads me. But you guys are supposed to have better experiences than me. For you. Your experience that you have with Jesus should be better for you than the experience you have with me. And it should be like this for everybody. And so just know that when we go and we experience him, that it has to be rich in his love and his ways for us. Just say, I want to know who I am. I want to know who you made me to be. And if you don't hear or experience anything, keep pressing in. Because this is, at first I was just like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing. And so I just put on some chill music, Music kind of helped me get focused. But if it had words, it wasn't good for me because then I'd start singing. And so, but I would just put on some chill music and I would just focus in and try to just focus my mind on him and say, what do you want? Take me where you want to take me. And at first, sometimes I would just sit there and kind of be in his presence, and that was it. And then all of a sudden, it'd be like, oh my goodness, I'm walking through this field of grass. This is interesting. And then he's saying, hey, let's go climb this mountain. And I'm like, okay, I don't know, but it's weird what happens. And sometimes, these experiences, they seem like a lifetime, and then I've just been sitting on the toilet. You know what I mean? It's like literally not very much time at all. And so you never know how it's going to be. We have to be able to do this while we're doing everything, while we're in our car, while we're doing the dishes, while we're changing a diaper. These are things that if we don't know how to experience God in our normal life, then you need to spend more time just alone with him until it becomes normal. Because normal should be walking in the Spirit. And it should be focused on him all the time. That should be our normal. And so if God is calling you to, maybe he's given you blueprints for a ministry, or maybe he has called you to do something that makes you uncomfortable, then what I recommend to you is to press into him and to find out more and more of who you are before you lead other people. But if it's time and you've been doing that for a while, press into him and just share your experiences with other people. Because this is what I'm doing. Honestly, God told me to start these mentoring groups Wednesdays and Sundays for Engaging in Heaven, because I had all sorts of people coming and asking me about, hey, can you lead me into the course? Hey, can you do this? Tell me about this. And I was like, okay, God, I don't know how this is going to happen. I don't have anything to teach, I really was like, I don't know what I'm doing. And he just said, do it anyway. I said, okay. And so I did. And honestly, most of the time, I don't even know what I'm teaching until like an hour before, when he finally goes, this is what you're doing. And when I teach, I don't know what I'm doing. I share my experiences. And I just say, hey, this is what God has done with me. Probably he'll do something similar with you, and it is always different. Everyone has different experiences, but we make it rich when we share our experiences with each other. And so I really believe that a lot of our growth depends on testimony. And so when I hear you say something about what you've experienced, I go, that makes sense to me. Oh my goodness, I think this is what I'm supposed to do. Or I go, I've seen that. That's exciting. I know what you're talking about. And all of a sudden, it gives you this affirmation and this confirmation about what you've been experiencing is truth. And God just starts growing you more and more and more. And so anyway, that was my short teaching for today, but I wanted to just share that intimacy is key, and that we can go nowhere without Jesus. He is the only one. He says, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. That's true. And so if you try to go somewhere and you forget to go with Jesus, you might end up in the wrong place. When I say this, the enemy, Satan, does an amazing job of counterfeiting. And so he has counterfeit courts. He has counterfeit about everything. And so you just need to be careful that whatever you do, you only do it through Jesus. So, the end.